Welcome. It's Vlog Tuesday. All right. Today I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey. Now, first of all, if you didn't know, I am a bit of an introvert. So, although I talk about spirituality and magic and witchcraft and stuff and techniques and whatnot, I find it very difficult to share things that happen to me. But I do realize that sharing those things can often help people in similar situations to understand what they're going through. So I'm going to try and be better and share some experiences. So I want to share an experience I had last week. Sorry, I get a bit nervous when I talk about myself. A bit of background first. So, I mean, obviously over the years, going through ceremonial magic and Western mystery tradition, those types of areas and practices and paths, you do obviously touch on some Eastern philosophies and teachings and practices. So, there's been bits and bobs here that I've touched on over a couple decades. But what I haven't really delved into is Hinduism. I did venture down the path of Buddhism for a while, but Hinduism itself I haven't really touched on or delved into. Now, roughly 3 years ago, I was given a spiritual name by Spirit. I'm going to say Spirit in general because I don't know who it was. I was given the name Pananta, and obviously I know what Pan is or who Pan is, but I didn't know what Ananta was. So I went researching that. Turns out it is the serpent that Lord Vishnu rests on. Ananta Sheshna is the serpent that encompasses the world serpent. And if we were to translate it, all, or Pan means all, and Ananta is infinite or eternal, so it would be the all eternal. So that's cool. All right. But I didn't know what to do with this because I was not connected with Hinduism at all. So I just kind of carried on with what I was doing. I came across books by Swami Satyananda Saraswati. I found especially his Kundalini Tantra book to be incredibly good. It's just the way he writes. Sorry about that, just bumped the camera. He writes from an Eastern philosophy, but he also brings a lot of Western science into it and does comparisons, which great to read. It gives you a good understanding of Kundalini, the chakras, the whole system. But he writes some very good books. He is the one who actually created Yoga Nidra, if you are interested in that. Anyway, carrying on. So a couple of weeks back, I had, over the past 3 years, Lord Vishnu has been kind of calling and going, it's time, and I kind of ignore these things because I've got other things to do, so, we'll just carry on what I'm doing. But a couple of weeks back, the pressure just became quite intense. So I printed out a picture of Lord Vishnu, put him on my altar, which then led to also printing out a picture of Lakshmi and putting her on the altar and whatnot. But then I went researching more on Swami Satyananda Saraswati and came across a different Swami with the same name, an American gentleman, and I started listening to some of his stuff. And I absolutely love him to bits. He's just so fun to listen to. But this Swami Satyananda, the American one, is connected with Shree Maa. So I went researching more on Shree Maa. Okay, so, carried on doing what I was doing and whatnot. And then on Friday morning, I had a dream I was kind of moving through what felt like the other world. I'm not sure which world it was, but there were all these scenes happening, and I was going past them and watching them, looking at them. And then I came to this big gate, this huge big gate, and I climbed up the top of the gate, and it was a walled enclosure, like a courtyard, and there was a house to the right. On the opposite side was a woman who was the guardian. She was looking at me a bit strangely and suspiciously, but she let me in, so I kind of went down into the courtyard. And as I got down there, there was just couches and armchairs all over the place. The place was packed. It was huge. And the house leading in also just full of, there were people on all the couches. The house was full of people. There were just people everywhere. Right in the middle of this courtyard was my ex-wife's grandmother. And I went up and I sat on the couch, next to her. And she was blind. She wasn't blind in life, but she was blind in the dream. And there was another woman opposite her. And she said, "It's Lee. He's come to see you." And she smiled and said, "Oh, hi Lee, how are you?" And then the dream ended. Couldn't really make sense of this dream. And then I was walking to the shop that morning, Friday morning, and I was listening to a recording of Swamiji and Shree Maa. And at the end of each, it's a recording of a book. And at the end of each chapter, Shree Maa then sings, and she talks a bit and then sings. And she started talking, and all of a sudden everything clicked into place. It was Shree Maa that was in the dream. My conscious mind just related it as being my ex-wife's grandmother. But they sound very similar. So everything just clicked, and I realized it was Shree Maa, and she'd blessed me. And I was in the middle of the street and I just started crying, which I'm going to start doing now, actually. So yeah, things have been happening. But the main reason I actually wanted to tell this story was that you might find that when you come onto a new path, you have something calling you and you kind of ignore it for a while, and it's like a pressure cooker, and it just keeps building up and building up and building up, and eventually you just give in and you accept this path, whatever is calling to you. And as soon as you accept it and you dedicate yourself to it, the pressure is released, and what you find is that everything just comes flowing through, and you might be led from point to point, but you're directly led to the place you're supposed to be. In my journey, it was, I accepted. I was just fluffing around for the past 3 years, and then when I finally accepted it as being the path I need to be on now, it kind of just all came through in a flurry, and I was led directly to Shree Maa. And then the dream happened, and it was kind of confirmation that I'm on the right path. But you'll find that it feels like that. It feels like a pressure cooker, and everything just builds up, and then you accept it, and the pressure gets released, and you just find yourself flowing in a direction so easily. And just everything comes through in a flurry. And obviously it calms down after a while, and you just continue studying and practicing, but that can quite often happen. So yeah, really wanted to just tell you about that. So I don't know if anybody can relate to this. I don't know if it helps anybody, but I thought I'd tell you. I'm going to just share the link to Shree Maa's website if you want to go and check that out. She is fantastic. She's absolutely amazing, and Swami Satyananda Saraswati is he's just great to listen to. He's just really fantastic. So if you are interested in Hinduism, then go and check that out. I'll definitely suggest checking that out. And right, so that's it. That's my story for today. I feel kind of weird telling these things or relating these things in public. So okay, so have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow for Ask Lee Wednesday. Okay, have a good one. Cheers.